piano studio of Lisa Bailey and our series on the circle of fifths scale Mania. We have been plugging away at each stop on the circle of fifths, and we have completed C major, G major, D major, A major, and today we will be doing E major. Please stick with me and hang on tight as we work on the E major scale along with the improvisation. Let's review our A major scale and the pattern of a major scale. So starting on A, we have our tonic, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So that is the pattern of our major scale. So now in A, which is our tonic of the last video, and our dominant in A is note E. So E is our next stop on the circle of fifths. We will be building a major scale from E. So E is now our tonic. So let's build our major scale with our whole steps and half steps. So our tonic, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Here's our new sharp, whole step, half step. Good. Okay, let's build that with our left hand. So starting with our tonic, which is E, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Very good. Okay, so our tonic in E is E and our dominant is B. So remember, every time we have a new major scale, we have a tonic and we have a dominant, which is a fifth above the scale that we're in, the note that we start on. So let's take a look at our key signature for the key of E. As you can see, we have added another sharp. So we now have 4 sharps that we are working with in the key of E. Our new sharp is D sharp. As you're looking at key signatures that are sharp keys, an easy way to remember where you are in what key you're in is to look at the very last sharp, so the furthest away from the treble clef or the bass clef, and in this case that's going to be D sharp. So D sharp is our last sharp, and to find what key we are in, we take that last sharp and we go up half a step. So you can do this with any key that is a sharp key signature. You take the very last sharp and go up half a step, and that is the major key that you are in. So the key signature for E major has 4 sharps: F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. Now let's work on our right hand 1 octave scale. So here we go. This major scale is the last major scale that will have the same fingering as the previous scales that we've been working on. Good. Now let's look at the left hand. Now work on the hands separately a lot. That is the best way to get to know your scale, is to work on it hands separately. Once you have mastered it hands separately, let's do it hands together. All right, very good. So let's try out the 2 octave E major scale. Good. All right, let's do the left hand. let's do hands together. Now remember, in the last video, I talked about leaning up on your hip as you get higher so that your forearm stays centered in front of your body and that your forearm is in line, your wrist and your forearm are in line with your fingers. I'm going to be tilting onto my hip as I move up with my 2 octaves, 2 hands, E major scale. Tilting is very important so that we can stay centered. You also don't want to get in the habit of scooting your bottom up, because that is a distraction, not only for you, but it's a distraction for your audience. So leaning is much more efficient. Scooting wastes a lot of energy and movement, and sometimes your bench is squeaky like mine. So we want to move as little as possible and tilt on our hip. Another thing I want to point out, as we add more and more sharps, notice that my fingers are further into the black keys. So look at finger 2 in my left hand on A. It's in the black keys. Even though I'm still playing a white key, it's in the black keys. And the same thing for finger 4 in my left hand. You want to continue to keep your fingers where they can stay curved and level. So if I were to have flat fingers, this would be very difficult because my thumb's going to be way out here and it might even miss that note way out here. So if we keep them curved, they stay on the same plane as the piano keys, and we can play with a lot of efficiency instead of wasted movement of way back here and then moving forward and then moving way back here and then moving into the black keys. We want to stay in the black keys as we play these sharp key signatures. Moving on to our improvisation, let's take a few minutes to look at the E 5-finger pattern and do some improvisation on your own with just that 5-finger pattern. So remember, a 5-finger pattern or 5-finger scale, also called a pentascale, all of those things mean the same thing, is just the first 5 notes of the scale you're working in. In this case, it's E major, so the first 5 notes. So take a few minutes and do some improvisation. And remember that there's no mistakes in improvisation. So enjoy what you are hearing. Now let's move into our duet. I love doing duets with you, and these improvisations have been so wonderful to do together. So our improvisation in E major today is in 3/4 time signature. I want you to do this in the 5-finger pattern to begin with, and then as you get more comfortable with the accompaniment and hearing how the changes are, move into the full, all of the notes in the scale. So that doesn't mean you have to do the scale in order. You may if you want to and if you like the way that sounds, but you can skip around in the scale, okay? But start with the 5-finger pattern until you get accustomed to it. Now let's do the duet together. I said it was in 3/4, so that means I'm going to give you 2 measures of 3 beats so we can come in together. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Very nice. That one went by quick. So feel free to go back and do that a few more times so you can get used to how that accompaniment is and experimenting with some improvisation on your own. Wow! I continue to be impressed by your perseverance and your quickness at learning each of these scales. So we've done 5 so far. That's a lot of scales so far. We have 7 to go. So all 5 are under your belt. You're doing an amazing job working on them. Next video, we will dive into the next stop, and I hope you will join me. If you are enjoying this series, please leave me a comment. I would love to know what your favorite part is so far.